We all carry a distinct image of the future in our minds, a specific career, a relationship, or even a deeply feared worst-case scenario. We plan for it, we expect it, and then it vanishes right beneath our feet. The anticipated reality simply fails to materialize. When this happens, you are experiencing the metaphysical equivalent of a 404 error. It is neatly summarized by this terminal screen showing the mathematical framework. Reality, or R, equals the observer function of psi, yielding an empty set. In this equation, the observer, represented by O, has attempted to project a specific desired reality, but the system returned an empty set, nothing rendered. This failure occurs for one of two strictly mechanical reasons. The target reality has either not yet been actualized by the necessary inputs, or it has been actively de-actualized along the way. Within this framework, a projected future is not a destination we are inevitably drifting toward. It functions as a conditional output, a state that only renders if the specific required inputs are present. To understand why a projection fails, we have to look at the rare instances when the exact opposite happens, cases where a highly specific, vividly predicted future materializes with absolute precision. Society tends to attach heavy, mystical labels to these moments. We call them fate, intuition, or manifestation. We treat them as if the universe temporarily bent to human will. This is a miscategorization. There is no magic at work here. What we call a self-fulfilling prophecy is actually a rigid, observable mechanical process operating within a defined mathematical arena. This arena is designated by the variable h, the state space, a vast matrix of thousands of translucent nodes representing potential configurations. Out of this infinite sea of possibility, the timeline we experience collapses into a single concrete track. A self-fulfilling prophecy is not an anomaly. It is simply the mathematically observable selection and extraction of one specific node from within the state space. Let us isolate the specific future a person is fixated on achieving. We will define this target destination as state psi. On its own, state psi is completely inert. No potential future, no matter how intensely desired, possesses the internal energy required to actualize itself. Moving from possibility to reality requires a mathematical operator, the observer, labeled O. It acts as an active bridge, locking on to the inert possibility within the state space, forcibly dragging it across the threshold into hard reality, or R. Without the continuous mechanical function of the observer, every prediction and plan is stranded. They remain phantom possibilities permanently suspended in the state space. How does an abstract observer actually force this translation in the physical world? It happens through constant, rapid physical choices as we navigate our environments. The common psychological trap is assuming that sheer thought or intense belief is the operational force dragging a future into existence. Belief alone does nothing. The true mechanical engine driving actualization is the continuous placement of millions of small bets. When a person holds a deep expectation about their future, that expectation subconsciously dictates their micro-behaviors. It alters their posture, shifts their daily financial decisions, and dictates their specific word choices. This probability gauge, variable S, exists strictly between 0 and 1. Every micro-behavior acts as an incremental bet on the target future occurring. As these millions of micro-actions aggregate, their collective weight pushes the variable toward absolute certainty. A self-fulfilling prophecy is just the mathematical tipping point. It is the exact moment where the sheer volume of accumulated microactions forces a specific future out of the abstract and into existence. Maintaining this process over extended periods reveals a stark vulnerability in the mathematics. If an observer loses focus, succumbs to exhaustion, or begins making choices that contradict their predicted future, the entire equation destabilizes. This diagram illustrates that behavioral shift. The observer stops placing the necessary small bets, halting the equation's energy source. The probability variable reverses. The target state loses its structural integrity and actively deactualizes, slipping backward into abstraction. This brings us back to the original 404 error. A failed projection is rarely a sudden, dramatic explosion. It is the slow, silent, mathematical starvation of a potential reality until nothing is left to render. When a projection does succeed, it arrives here. This structure represents set C, the permanent collection of actualized states. This is a hard, irreversible plane of reality. It stands in total contrast to the ethereal, fluid possibilities floating within the state space we observed earlier. The only way a concept moves from that fluid possibility into this solid reality is through the persistent, aggregated actions of the observer. This model places the burden of construction entirely on the individual. The surrounding geometry organizes itself outward from our own feet, assembling based strictly on the behavioral data we generate. This is why projecting negative or fearful futures is deeply dangerous. If you obsess over a worst-case scenario, your daily micro-actions will loyally and mathematically follow suit, actualizing the very fears you are trying to avoid. We are never passive passengers waiting for a predefined reality to load. We are the active mathematical operators, projecting our exact existence through every single small bet we make.